My name's Dani Tamati. I won't bore you death by PowerPoint, and my PowerPoint, I have focused it on business as well as for individuals. Diversity is a pretty passionate subject of mine, being that I've worked in the resources sector for the last 22 years, so therefore I've worked in a pretty male-dominated area. So a bit about me, nearly 22 years actually, living and working, recruiting and assisting people gain employment and understanding their career pathways recently. Number one, I'm a resource industry recruitment specialist. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I diverted a little bit a few years ago and became a careers practitioner because I could see that having done recruitment in the industry for so long, I could offer a lot of people advice on what sort of career pathways to consider. I'm also a mentor for Women in Mining WA and Recruitment Consultant Services Association. I've done a stint as a HR manager. I'm the principal owner of the Resources Hub and Resourceful Women, which will launch on International Girls' Day on the 11th of October. And I'm a FIFO wife, mum of 4, and an ex-Pilbara princess for 14 years. Hang on. So diverse employment. I identified, and this was probably a bit of a process with Resourceful Women. Initially, when I had the idea for Resourceful Women, it was to engage and encourage women to re-enter back into the resources sector when there was such a skill shortage. When I moved from Paraburdoo, a lovely little mining town 1,600 kilometres away in the middle of nowhere, if anyone doesn't know where it is, to the Perth Hills, I met these amazing women who had lost their identity from having children and not following, their passion and getting back into the careers. I have a 10-year-old daughter who's quite a staunch little chick. I actually asked her last week how she would feel about being mentored by somebody for a 6-week program that I'm thinking of putting together. And at 10, she basically turned around to me and said, "Mum, I'm 10. Can you get back to me in 2 years' time when I'm 12 and I'll consider it then?" So needless to say, I'm now looking at a 12 to 17-year bracket for the leadership, leading little ladies mentoring that I'm looking at doing. So it really starts with planting the seed and allowing girls to, I suppose, understand what their passion may be. Like I said, I had the idea of 10 to 14 to simply start that conversation. Women only make up 35% of the full-time workforce in comparison to 70% of the male population, and we earn 18.8% less than men in similar positions. So the 4 pillars was really to, I suppose, engage, encourage, empower and employ girls to think about what other opportunities are out there. Obviously, and the likes of when I was growing up, most of the career pathways were sort of, I suppose you were directed by either your direct mentors, aunties and uncles, parents, possibly school counsellors, career counsellors, that sort of thing. But they were generally very female-dominated roles, like you'll become a bank teller, you might do administration, you better do that typing course because if you don't, you're never going to get anywhere. You might become a nurse, that sort of thing. Fortunately for me, I took a trip to a mining town when I was 21 and decided to throw myself into it. And so, yeah, recruitment's pretty much, and career is pretty much where I've come out from. But I have worked on site quite extensively, so it's given me a really, really good overview as to what other opportunities are out there for women. I think we really need to provide workforce tools, training and development, mentoring, like I said, and support. And we need to embed in people's minds now that they're not going to be 22 forever. They are going to want to go and have children possibly and raise families. And so to consider how they can be re-engaged and re-enter into the workforce after that. So flexible working conditions and childcare options. When I lived in a mining town, childcare options were very few and far between. My children were basically looked after by nannies and carers in towns. So encourage. We need to inspire women to set realistic career goals from the start, and I think we need to start from like I said, a really quite an early age. Educate women that they're not tied down to one career. My career was in hospitality. I never ever thought that I would be standing in front of 120 teachers speaking to you about career pathways and recruitment. Empower women on the importance of work-life balance, like I said, and be resilient in unknown territories. Often we think that we might not be good enough to work in particular in male-dominated areas, and you'd be surprised the amount of girlfriends that I've got that are general managers of mining companies and have really, you know, set the seed and made some fabulous inroads. And we need to find our why. We need to have a passion because it's what gets us out of bed in the morning, I think. So why we do what we do and have positive influences as to why we do what we do. More on encouragement is introduce the tools and equip them. Like I said, starting life as a recruitment consultant gave me one sort of avenue to look at jobs, one sort of perspective. When I started getting more into career coaching, which is something that I really love doing, it's more about finding out the identity of the person and what makes them tick, what behaviours they have, and I suppose suggesting to them and aligning them with opportunities that they should consider. Personal brand is banded around a lot, but it really is, you know, it is who we are, it is what we do. And personal brand also includes social media these days because LinkedIn is, you know, the most powerful tool in order to find employment and also to, I suppose, project, you know, what your capabilities are, that sort of thing. Probably might not have much relevance in your particular field, but it certainly does in other industries. Tools for today, CVs and LinkedIn profiles. Gone are the days where recruiters want to see a 12-page CV. We want to see 4 pages. We want to make sure that you've identified all the key criteria listed for that particular job ad. And we also want to see that whatever you're prepared to let us know when you're applying for a position, you're also prepared to tell the world in a LinkedIn profile because, like I said, that's just open slather for everyone, really. And by having a supported community. So, you know, tapping into those people that have gone down a similar path and asking questions. And most people are quite prepared to put up their hands and become, you know, even if it's a coffee or a formalised mentor program, a lot of people are quite happy to consider that. So we've engaged them, we've encouraged them, and now we need to empower them. And like I said, a lot of the time women just simply get lost, I suppose, but with coaching and mentoring and reaching out, you know, their mentors can really have a positive effect and can also be, as a mentor myself, you can also be, I suppose, that sounding board. And when my mentees, for instance, have had what they've thought is crazy ideas, I've thought they've been brilliant ideas, and just with a bit of hand-holding and encouragement, away they've gone. My very first mentee was the general manager of a recruitment company in Perth. She had quite a lot of staff. She had 2 little babies who were 2 and 4 at the time. She's since left that recruitment company and she's gone out on her own and she's just exceeding beyond expectations. She's just doing so well. And she's become a really good friend too, so that was an extra bonus for me. Focus on specific career goals and personal situations. I suppose in general industry, you know, there's 6 monthly reviews and KPIs and all of that sort of stuff. I'm not sure what it's exactly like in your industry, but you know, it's also as important for, I suppose, immediate managers to encourage their staff to further develop themselves as well, because that leads to retention often. And the benefits are increased motivation and commitment to the individual, which improved decision makers and greater self-awareness. And at the end of the day, it's all about employment. Obviously, in my sector at the moment, employment's a hot topic, so is redundancies. So I've actually created a program on that as well. But, you know, further training and development, when I'm speaking to career clients or individuals, candidates at the moment, if they have got the time and they have got the money, further training and development will lead them ahead of the pack when they're applying for roles. So this is a little bit about, and like I said to Alison, I really wasn't sure what my target audience was today. This is about individuals understanding who they are. So again, it's about the CV, how they need to have basic information, a career objective and overview. They need to sell themselves. They need to sell what their brand is, and they probably don't even know what their brand is because they're obviously teens, and I have teens myself, so I get it. Their education, training, industry certifications and qualifications, skills and attributes. They might be a people person, or they might like outdoors, that sort of thing. Specific industry or trade experience. This is mainly for blue collar, and previous employment history. And then referees are really important as well. And then once they've got all of that documentation ready, here's just a few different areas that they can consider. So the hidden job market is really just about having conversations with people in their network. It might be an auntie and uncle, it could be the next door neighbour. That's actually how I found my first job, was just talking to somebody that I was working in a part-time position with, and his father's brother worked at the Parmelia Hilton, and the next thing I knew, I had a full-time job, so that worked for me. Social media these days is by far one of the most widely used forms of job search, and on Facebook in particular, I follow a lot of job boards where people can find employment, and we can, as recruiters, can also find talent. Networking pretty much speaks for itself. A lot of the time people don't feel confident initially to network, but you'd be surprised who you might be talking to. Employment agencies, so through labour hire, contract, temp to perm and permanent roles. And then advertisements across job boards and job search engines such as Seek, Indeed, Mining, Link, which is specific to my industry, LinkedIn, Job Seeker, Job Search and Jobs. So just hands up, who does have a LinkedIn profile here? Okay. Obviously, across all the different social media platforms, and normally I would put more information into this, but it's your brand being portrayed across every different platform. So my LinkedIn profile picture is the same as it is against my Twitter, as my About Me, which is an online website, just to keep the consistency. Facebook might be a little bit different, but I use that for personal things. So why social media, and LinkedIn in particular, is so important? It allows you to connect, and gone are the days, well, I suppose in the past, especially with CVs, you'd get somebody to be your referee, and then the next minute they've left a job and their mobile number's changed, or they're not at the same company, and so therefore their email address has changed and you can't continue keeping in contact. Through the likes of LinkedIn, you can do exactly that. You need to make sure that your little sell point, or the bit about you, isn't too long-winded. Condense your experience section. Again, like I said, we no longer want to see 12 pages about what your work history is. We want to see 4 pages and you identifying, what your experiences and qualifications are for the particular job. Join appropriate groups and comment on those groups. You'd be surprised how much traction you can gain and following and that sort of stuff. And ensure you have a decent work-related profile picture. You'd be surprised the amount of people on LinkedIn that don't. And include your skills and be strategic about those. So just in summary, for companies, I think we need to help them understand that women in business is good for business, no matter what. Companies that do engage women in senior management roles and board level roles end up doing far better than those that don't. Women bring soft skills to industry. The last two roles ago where I worked in a male-dominated mining contracting company. I was one of only 2 female senior managers. I used to be called the mother hen, probably because I used to mother a little bit, but I obviously brought different dynamics to that business and we did really well out of it. So, and for individuals, they need to look beyond job boards. So when you're speaking to your students, they need to look outside the square. Use their network, tailor their documentation, send their details to employment agencies, not haunt them, because trust me, we get inundated with people contacting us all of the time because, like I said, in particular in our industry, there is so many people out of work, and then have an online social media presence. And the likes of LinkedIn, Jobs, Live Hire can allow you to update and have your information online so that recruiters can also find you, or hiring managers can also find you. Yep.